Thank you, Dr. Lee, and thank you everybody here, Tom, Kurt, and good morning everyone. It's my great pleasure to be here this morning to share some of my perspectives. I hope that you'll find some of my ideas here somewhat relevant and useful so that you could apply them in your own teaching and your research. And if you find anything that's really useful, please let me know so I could use your ideas as well. So we're all working together. So thank you for allowing me to come up here and then share my perspectives on MOOCs. And then allowing me to say that the MOOCs in current forms, they are not sustainable. I don't know how many of you will agree with me, but that's the kind of message that I wanted to give you. And we have a lot of work ahead of us. So as my presentation title suggests, that I'm interested in the sustainability aspect of educational innovation. And I'm interested in approaches that cause a paradigm shift, not just flipping the same model up and down and left and right and end up in the same place. That's not the kind of approaches that I would like to use in my research and projects. So when I say paradigm shift, I mean something fundamentally and simply different. So this morning, I hope to shed some light on what paradigm shift I'm seeking and how I would want to work with you all in this room together. I see that there's a way that we can all work together. We can get connected, we can help each other, and achieve our full potential together. And that's what I like to do. So I like to get linked in with all of you and Facebook and friends and all those things so that we can continue to communicate and share our ideas. So let me get started. Here's what I see. In recent years, MOOCs have legitimized the existence and purpose of online education. Online education has been in the back burner for many universities. There are a lot of champions and like Kurt and experts here in this room. However, the mainstream was ignoring the online education programs, and they weren't giving enough credits to those who were working hard to bring that to the mainstream. So I believe the MOOCs, the waves, have legitimized the online education in overall. And I think that we have a lot of great things that are coming down the road for us because we can now finally use it in the mainstream. As we know, some pioneering organizations used bulletin board systems or even slow modems as early as 1987 to offer online programs. How many of you remember using those modems that make the sound beep, and then you get connected, and then you have to wait for minutes, and then you start to see the text line coming up on your screen, and you follow them, and you read the instructions, and you type your replies, and somebody from the network will email you back, and so forth. So you use that system. So that's way before any search engines became available, or even the concept of web pages were imagined. However, with rapid advancements in information and communication technologies, entrepreneurs kept on bringing up new possibilities to the world. Ones that I believe contributed a lot to the education space include Google, Wikipedia, and YouTube. I'm sure you will pick different sets of innovations and developments. Nonetheless, even with these simple yet profoundly powerful tools, we benefited tremendously. And when we are seeking information, knowledge, wisdom, we oftentimes use these tools. I do use these tools on a daily basis. To me, these tools and the very concepts made these tools possible actually made MOOCs possible on the one very important condition. The most important condition we already know is that the current higher education system is no longer effective. The current system, which is at least centuries old, is becoming increasingly unaffordable, while the teaching and learning models in most universities completely ignore me as an individual with a unique set of interests and potential. In many cases, it is the effective student who comes out successfully. It's not that effective institutes make a successful lifelong learner at the end. That's how I believe. The fear that the society created is that you need degrees if you want to make more money. Not too many people say that you will be happier if you go to college. And I find these societal phenomena quite bizarre. Because of this condition, many people tried many different things. Some try to make it cheaper, and some try to make it more accessible. Because of these attempts, and the most important fact, the current higher education systems are not effective, MOOCs came about. Therefore, a MOOC that we see today is not a pre-planned or well-crafted solution to address a problem in the higher education system, but certainly a byproduct of all attempts combined. Did anyone ask if we need MOOCs? No. In fact, there were no market research studies or increasingly overwhelming demands from people around the world seeking MOOCs the way they are today. This is the single most important lens to look at the sustainability aspect of MOOCs. Without demands with specifics, what good is a misaligned supply? When universities started to join the MOOC wave, many joined because they did not want to be drowned in the online education waves, not necessarily checking to see if creating and operating MOOCs meet their institutional mission or specifically defining what constitutes learning in MOOCs. Without clear institutional missions, professors gave it a try as a champion and soon realized that actually preparing for and teaching in a MOOC environment does take a lot more time and effort than obviously a physical classroom or even LMS integrated classrooms because of the sheer number of students in a MOOC environment. So some quit, some abandoned, and some wanted to find the reset button, but they couldn't find one. Also, there are many who claim that they have delivered a MOOC, but without the characteristics of MOOCs. I'm not here to define what a MOOC must be or should be, but for example, without the massiveness of a MOOC, is it still a MOOC? Because MOOC stands for Massive Open Online Course. So is it still MOOC even if there is no massive part? I see that nowadays, many MOOC platforms are employed to deliver small online courses. I guess it must have been hard to sustain the massiveness. Why those people want to still call their courses MOOCs? I'm not quite sure. How about MOOCs without the openness aspect of a MOOC? Is it still a MOOC, even if it is closed? Openness, to me, is open to all contributors and participants. Is the current university structure open for all? I know that university professors can freely publish books, but they cannot freely publish MOOCs. And maybe you don't notice that yet, but that's coming down the pipe. And also, collaboration between faculty members of different universities is oftentimes not easy. Because who owns the intellectual properties? That becomes a question. I see many universities with an elite status rigidifying boundaries around the MOOCs and using the same governance structure for MOOC approval as well. As you can see here, the presidents of different universities feel that they're threatened. How about without the onlineness or the current social networking components online? Is it still a MOOC? Some obviously did it without such important MOOC characteristic, but purely as another course which happens to have some videos and textbooks online. I encounter many university presidents who just couldn't distinguish between online courses and MOOCs. They just happen to conveniently use the terms interchangeably as if they were the same thing. I get this in many meetings with the university presidents. Because of all these missing components, mismatches, misunderstandings, MOOCs in their current forms cannot be sustainable. There's one thing that I can guarantee to you this morning. Things will continue to evolve, and so will MOOCs. I'm one of those hopefuls looking forward to seeing MOOC 2.0, 3.0, something that will cause a paradigm shift in the education space. There's some trends that I see that I believe will cause further evolution in the education space. One is about everyone becoming a teacher of something. Whatever skill or knowledge or wisdom you may possess, now it has become easy to share with the world and somehow monetize your efforts to sustain your model. Michelle Phan is a great example of edupreneurship. The reason that I picked her case is she's a very interesting person. She started to put her makeup tips online because that's what she is good at. And then she quickly got millions of viewers around the world. And with the millions of viewers who agree with her tips and who use her tips, and they, I guess, had a better makeups. And then a lot of people liked her way that she was teaching. And now she's starting her own company, a cosmetics company, and that company is called M. Michelle or something like that. But I find it quite interesting. I think this is an edupreneurship, and in the next 5-10 years, it's going to be the era of edupreneurship. Every one of you can be a teacher. Every one of you can connect with the world, and every one of you can sustain your model. I'm not saying go out, make a lot of money. Why not? But you can sustain your model. That is important. If you cannot sustain your innovation, nobody will remember. Maybe that's okay, but if you are trying to cause a real change in paradigm shift, you have to come up with a strategy to sustain your model. And Udemy, I don't know how many of you know this company. Raise your hand if you know this company. Some people pronounce it Udemy, and I pronounce it Udemy. But either way, Udemy is creating a marketplace for many edupreneurs like Michelle Phan around the world. So now, online marketplace concept is not just for Amazon or eBay. There are content providers, and then there are students and learners around the world. And there are organizations and companies that are making it easier for them to connect, communicate, and learn, and teach, and sustain their model. So education marketplace is going to be a mainstream phenomenon in the education space for years to come. Educators compete, and learners get to pick the best learning experience while monetizing their efforts to sustain their model. Basically, these marketplaces are like Expedia or Kayak for education flights. Also, there's another way to sustain your education model besides monetizing your efforts. Do you know what the other powerful sustainable fuel is? I found one from my own teaching experiences. And if you find another one, and let me know so we can share. What I found was passion. Passion is the fuel. passion that every learner has. Passion is fuel for everyone involved. And let me tell you what will get people to do things for free. Things usually you have to pay big money to get, or things you wouldn't do unless you get some kind of credit or recognition. Ellen Dong Yi, she lives in China, and she took one of my MOOC courses last year, Designing a New Learning Environment, which Dr. Lee mentioned earlier, which drew 20,000 students from 170 countries. And after taking that course, she said, this is what she said: I attended a Stanford open course and decided to devote myself in solving underserved education problems. A student like her inspires me, and I try to connect her with many more students so that she can inspire other students as well. And that's, I think, what is important in the higher education space, and is becoming more and more important. The students want to find meaning. And why do they want to be in a classroom? Why do they need a degree? What are they going to do after they get their degrees? I don't think we're doing a good job in helping them finding their passion and helping them reach their full potential. This is another student, a middle school student, who was in my DNLE class with the rest of the students who had graduate degrees and doctoral degrees and so forth. And after taking the class, he said this: although I'm only a middle schooler, I hope that my team and I will create a new learning environment that could change the course of other children's life. This middle schooler inspires me. And there are many more who expressed similar views in this course, Designing a New Learning Environment. There are a lot of interesting things that I have found in this particular course. For example, a Chinese student downloaded the lecture videos and put the subtitles in Chinese. And in fact, it's not just in China. There are many students from Saudi, Mexico, and other countries. They downloaded the lectures and they translated them into local languages. Did I ask them to do that? No, I did not ask them to do that. But why do you think they did that? They wanted to help others. And there are other students like this who translated the whole videos and put the captions in Arabic and shared with more students in their region. And there were a German student who downloaded every single lecture video and then created low bandwidth media. So basically, he created a set of videos. They are my lecture videos, but he kind of downgraded the quality of the video so you don't have to wait too long to download the video. Yet, your quality suffers a little bit, but at least many more students can download these videos and they can hear the lecture and so forth. I didn't ask this gentleman to do that. All of a sudden, he came up and he did it. Another student from India, he collected all the important keywords in the class and he created glossary. Did I ask him to do that? No. Why did he do that? Because he wanted to help other students who are taking the course. Another student from Egypt, Azar Youssef, she created a website that lists all the tools that were mentioned, educational tools that were mentioned in the class. And then she created the website and she's sharing it with the world. Did I ask her to do that? No, I did not. And she continues to connect with me and other students and working on various projects. That's the passion. That's the passion that I found that keeps them going and going and going. And many of these students are actually running their local workshops based on what they have learned in the classroom. And in fact, they are also publishing their book describing their learning experiences in the course. So I'm looking forward to reading that book. But it's all done by the students. Some of you may know that I've been working on mobile learning projects in various countries with a few different mobile learning projects. This particular project here is it's called the SMILE, Stanford Mobile Inquiry-Based Learning Environment. And this is one of the projects that I shared in the class. As you can see on the left top, that's Jordan, and the right-hand side, that's Tanzania. Students are creating their own questions to share and solve and rank them, and they are discussing these questions. So generating question is the way of learning. And I wanted to take it to the areas where there's no electricity and internet access. So we experimented a little plug computer that can create this instant mobile learning network with the entire copy of a Wikipedia and selective video courses all in this little plug, and we hooked it up to a battery. And a company came up and said, well, we're going to make it better for you. And they came up with this product called the SMILE Plug. All these things happened in the last 2 years. So now we are distributing the SMILE Plug to different places around the world where they do not have electricity, they do not have internet access. This plug contains high-quality educational videos. And if the local students want, different courses from various sites here in the US, then we download them and we load them up in this plug, and we distribute them. India, students are using SMILE Learning Network to create their own questions. Tanzania, they're creating their own learning objects. And then now, Stanford Medical School is connected with a medical school in Zimbabwe. So they are sharing their questions. By examining questions, we know if they're learning, if they're making progress, etc. Things like that. It's about sharing. And why they do that? Because they have the passion to do that. Last year, actually this year, I was invited by Oxford University to give a talk about my work. And some of the students at Oxford were inspired, and they went to India to run this program by themselves. So one thing is leading to another and another. And other students who are going into school districts that are underserved, and they're running SMILE network on science subjects. So they're coming up with the creative ideas to implement some of these learning models that I discussed in my class. Our Dean of Stanford Graduate School of Business says this: the millennial students, those earning higher education degrees in the 21st century, walking through our doors, don't just want to make money. They want to make a difference. I don't know how many of you know Dick Frosby. Raise your hand if you know him. All right. So we have a lot more people who don't know him. So he inspires me because he kind of demonstrated how difficult the change is. How change is so difficult. So I'm going to play a video and what he did. Can you see this? This is a gentleman who tried the high jump. Until that time, everybody jumped the forward. But he's the man who looked bizarre. And a lot of people didn't agree with him when he tried to do high jump the backward. And I can imagine what kind of things that he must have heard from people, blaming him or not believing in him and criticizing him. But he kept on going and he kept on trying. And then he jumped backward. And then he was successful. And other people jumped forward. And some of them failed. But Dick Frosby continued to jump the backward. And finally, he made it to be the top high jumper in the world in the last competition. So he proved the concept that his way was right, and although it was a very difficult thing to do, and with a lot of criticism around his colleagues and everybody around him, he made it. So I think that when we try to make a difference, that's probably what we are going to experience. We're going to have a lot of hard time, and people may think that it's kind of funny sometimes, And people may think that, well, that's not going to work. They may blame you and all those things. But they did it. So what can we do as educators? I think that this is something that I want to share with you. This is a artwork in a museum. Basically on the floor, these are broken glasses. Broken glasses reflecting the light to the wall, which creates a beautiful artwork. And I consider myself as a broken glass. I'm broken, I'm not perfect, I may not be useful, I may be trashed, but if we reflect the light together, I think that we can create a very beautiful work. And I think this requires two things. We need to reflect the right light, and we have to work together. And that's what we need to do as an educators. What we see today may not be perfect. What we see today may not be sustainable. But if we work together, and if we reflect the light, probably we're going to be successful in our journey. So thank you, and I have nothing further to say. I'll always show this screen at the end of my presentation. But one thing that I probably discuss is this, dash. That's all there is between your birthday and death date. Your life is a dash, and it goes by very quickly. What can we do in our lifetime? And we admit that we may be broken glass, but we can reflect the light. So thank you for coming and listening to my talk.